Okay, everybody, this is the AP Curriculum Breakout Session number 1. Again, due to the schedule tonight, I know that I was 2 minutes behind schedule, so I apologize for that, but we are going to get started on the AP Curriculum first breakout session. I know that there is a lot of information that's going to be shared. We do want to have an opportunity for questions. We have some unbelievable students that have joined us and unbelievable teachers that have joined us. So for the information part, Mrs. Luzzo is going to go through the information fairly quickly because you're going to get the slides to be able to review. She is going to highlight and showcase some new AP courses that will be offered starting next year. Again, based on feedback from students, families, and staff. We're very, very excited about that. But we do want to open it up for questions and let our students and teachers give you the real inside scoop on things. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to Mrs. Luzzo.
Thank you. I'm Mrs. Luzzo. I am one of the school counselors here at the high school. If you have a last name H through O, you'll be on my caseload. And I am also the new AP coordinator this school year. So if you have questions, my email information and Dr. Durda's email information will be at the end of the slides, which you'll get tomorrow.
Maybe Friday.
Maybe Friday. Okay, so AP is Advanced Placement. Those are classes that are offered through College Board. College Board AP classes are consistent worldwide. So any AP class that is offered, I was on a webinar with a bunch of AP coordinators, and the one gentleman was in Germany. So all of the high schools that offer AP classes, their curriculum is set by College Board and implemented by the AP teachers so that it is consistent. The benefits of taking AP courses: you get exposure to college level classes and material. The students develop higher level thinking and study skills. We hear a great deal of students joining study groups to really meet and discuss and drive home those content information. They demonstrate readiness to colleges and universities through the curriculum and then ultimately the AP exams. They can improve your high school GPA. Our advanced placement classes are weighted the highest of all the classes that we offer here at the high school. So they are awarded the most quality points, which in turn can boost your GPA. And then you can potentially earn college credit or advancement by taking the AP exam offered in May and save money on tuition. The difference in honors and AP level courses, I think Mrs. Martin addressed this as well, the pacing. It is a quicker pace. You go into more detail. They cover more content. There is a significant amount of independent reading, writing, and outside work. I talked about the content, and they go into greater depth. And then the engagement and discussions within the classrooms and outside of the classrooms with the students is essential for creating that learning environment and having the students be successful in mastering the content. Expectations for AP students, they are expected to learn the content at a quicker rate. They're expected to, develop effective study skills, interact with and retain that content. There is a significant amount of time that the students need to dedicate outside of the classroom in order to be successful, and they need to, manage that time to accommodate activities and life outside of school. If you have a job or you're volunteering, you really need to be able to think about, like Mrs. Martin said, how academically motivated you are and what your life looks like out of school for your success in your AP class, as well as being successful as an overall student, person, and obviously we talk a lot about mental health and making sure that you're making that a priority as well. Successful traits: you need to be curious, motivated, have a very strong work ethic, responsible. You need to have very good time management skills. The AP exam, so each AP course that we offer here at the high school has an AP exam that goes along with it. They are offered, not offered, we run the exams in 2 weeks in May. Every high school has the same 2 weeks that the exams are set up. So each exam has a specific date and time within that 2-week window in May. New this year is the AP exams have always been, if you were in the AP class, you were taking the AP exam. That is no longer the case, although we do highly recommend you take the AP exam, but it is not required anymore. And then this year, each exam was $99. That is the responsibility of the family. And we have, and I think Dr. Durda and I will be revising the steps and how we're registering for the exam. So that information will always be sent by Dr. Durda and myself. We'll communicate all the steps with you along the way. Oh, and say you are, you can't get AP Psychology in your schedule, but you're self-studying and you really want to take that exam. You can choose to take an AP exam even if you are not enrolled in the class. So that is definitely an option for you as well. The AP exam scores, they are scored 1 through 5. 3 through 5 is, what schools and universities are looking for. 5 is mastery of the content. And then these links that are on here, they're also on the very last slide. This AP exam score information. You can click on there and it'll have information directly from College Board as far as the scoring and the guidelines and whatnot. AP credit and placement policies. So this first bullet is directly from College Board. Students seeking credit through their AP scores should know that each college and university, not the AP program, College Board, or high school, determines the nature and extent of its policies for awarding advanced placement credit or both. So ultimately, each college and university awards scores differently, and this AP credit policy search is a link down there. That link is very it's very helpful. You can click the exam that you want to take and go by university, and you can see what score they require, how they award the credit or the advanced placement. So that's a great resource for you. We do not put AP scores on the transcript, and that does not affect your admission into a college or university. They will not even look at it until you're accepted into the program. Your AP class and grade will be on your transcript, but your scores will not be on there. Choosing AP courses, Mrs. Martin touched on this, is with the honors. AP is obviously the highest level class that we offer here at the high school. Students, you should really be working with your parent and guardian, talking about what your schedule looks like, how many AP classes you want to take. As a 9th grader, your options for AP are AP Computer Science Principles and AP Computer Science A, as long as you also take Java. AP Computer Science A, you have to take Java for a semester to take that. Those are your options for 9th grade. As you advance through your grade levels, more AP classes will become available to you. Another important factor is your current, so when you're here in 9th grade and maybe you're scheduling for 10th grade, you really are wanting to have conversations with your current subject area teacher. They work with you every day. They know your abilities, your strengths, your weaknesses. So those conversations and their input, along with your parent and guardian input, is going to be crucial in choosing what AP classes you want to take and how many you want to take. Prerequisites, I'm not going to read this. This is just very factual. It's along the same lines as going from regular to honors. Honors to AP classes. The grade requirements are the same, and they'll be available for you. I wanted to highlight a couple of our new AP classes that we will be offering next year that we were able to get on board. So art history, we've always offered art and design. Art history will be a new class for us. And then English 10 seminar will be an option during your 10th grade for your 10th grade English class. Physics 1 and Physics 2C. The Physics 2C, I have Mrs. Habib, that's the lab, correct? Yes. 1.5 credit, and then AP World History, which will be your 10th grade social studies. So you could choose World History, Honors World History, or AP World History, along with the other AP classes that we offer here at the high school.
And we have Mrs. Hackworth for that class.
Yes, we have Mrs. Hackworth. So once I get through, I'm actually pretty much done. I'm going to invite, we have some special people here with us. When I talked with Mrs. Quirk, the old AP coordinator, she said the most valuable part of her AP night was the ability to have some faculty members. We have a student with us, myself, Mrs. Martin, Dr. Durda. We want to answer any questions that you have. We can have Mrs. Hackworth and Mrs. Habib, walk you through their expectations in their class, so we'll get to that. But these are the important links that I discussed, the AP Credit Policy Search, AP Score Exam, the overview of AP courses. We do have a slide in here. It'll open up each AP teacher has a video presentation that you can listen to, and they kind of explain their expectations in each different subject area. And then Dr. Durda and myself, our contact information, please reach out with any questions. I may not have the answer for you now, but I will find the answer and get that to you as soon as possible. So I will introduce, go ahead.
Before Mrs. Luzzo introduces staff members and students that we have joining us, we just want to emphasize how proud we are of our high school team, students, staff. We received a lot of feedback about the course offerings that we have, our AP course offerings. And the fact that I know we were told a lot of students weren't able to take AP courses until later on in their high school experience. Full disclosure, when I rolled this out to 11th and 12th grade students, the 10th and 11th grade students currently, they weren't too happy with us that we now are offering these and they didn't have the experience. And I shared that is part of our philosophy of our identity and focus. Deep love and care, relentless pursuit of excellence, and a respectful and engaging community of leaving it better than you found it. Because I had a lot of eye rolls from 10th and 11th graders that were like, come on, Dr. Durda, why didn't we have this whenever I was in here? And I said, that's part of us building a collaborative partnership of open communication so that we continue to grow and just continue to get better with time. So I'm proud of our teachers, of our students, for bringing the ideas and the suggestions and being willing to continue to grow as a school. So proud. And I'll let you introduce, because this group right here, you guys are in for a treat now.
So if you don't mind, I have Ryan. She is here as an AP student representative, so she's going to come up. I have Mrs. Habib. She is from our science department, and Mrs. Hackworth from our social studies department, as well as Mrs. Martin, Dr. Durda. So really, we wanted to open up the floor if you have any questions. If not, we'll go a different route. But are there any questions tonight? Yes.
Are you still going to grade summer work by a test when they come in for honor?
So the question is, are you still going to grade summer work on a test? There is a summer work process that we will be communicating out, and there is a assessment component that is associated with it. But there are some things that we as a staff are working together so that it can be a learning experience and an opportunity, and not I'm in a hole trying to dig myself out of that hole. So we will be communicating out summer work. I've taught AP level classes before. I was a high school math teacher for 8 years. There is a high level of rigor that is so associated with AP and honors courses. I can tell you I've worked hand in hand with our teachers, and if there is a summer work assignment associated with the class, there is a deep intentionality and why we need to help and prepare so students are ready for that level of course. But to answer your question, there could be an assessment component associated with it. We will be communicating out expectations to all students, all families, and obviously working in conjunction with our high school staff, but what we don't want is my student is coming in day one of class and I'm taking an assessment and now I feel like I already can't overcome something. So more to come, stay tuned, and I get the privilege of working with educators that I want working with my own family, and we've got 2 of them here today, super excited, and Ryan, I met Ryan like my first week on the job last year. If I would have known, she runs the high school, so we're gonna let Ryan share from a high school perspective. Can we give a quick plug? Ryan, what's your post-secondary plan?
I'm going to Carnegie Mellon University for engineering.
And she runs cross country, and she's the leader of like student government at NHS, and she tells Dr. Durda and Mr. Salapak how to run a high school. So we're going to vote for her for president.
Do you want to tell them a little bit about your experiences with AP courses?
Sure, so I was counting, I've taken 8 AP classes throughout my high school experience, and that is an extreme. That is not normal. Do not feel like you have to do that to be successful. It's not, some may say it's not healthy, but it's just what I do. And the way that I think I describe it is that it's kind of like a lifestyle in a way. I feel like especially junior year, less so senior year because it's, things are winding down and it's less pressure, but junior year, when you first have this opportunity to take all these different classes that are APs, it does consume a large part of your life. It's very rewarding. But for me, there are, for example, activities that I had to give up in order to succeed in these classes. Like Dr. Durda said, I run cross country. I also used to run track, which is indoor track in the winter and outdoor track in the spring. And I had to give that up in order to succeed in the way that I wanted to. That was a choice that I made, and I was very happy with it in the end, but it was a difficult choice, but it was a necessary one. I think it is almost startling going into these classes sometimes. There is often a learning curve that you have to just overcome. I was a student for a very long time that I worked hard, I studied, but I didn't do poor on tests. And going into AP chemistry, even AP language, there were essays, there were tests that I did not do so well on, and I was very, very upset. But that was part of the experience. It's part of, I guess, life in general. And eventually I was able to accept that and, move on and have it as a learning experience. But I think for students that are interested in taking all these APs, that is very, very scary. Eventually you will realize how to study for these tests, for even the tests in the classes. You'll kind of realize, I feel like I relied a lot on online resources like videos, even a lot of, because it's a generalized curriculum, every high school has it. A lot of teachers will upload videos to YouTube about it. Even the College Board themselves have extra practice online. That completely saved me in a lot of these courses. And for a while it is trial and error, but eventually you do get it. So, yeah, any questions before I keep going and talking? Favorite? The thing too is that it has to do a lot with the teacher. So for example, English. I'm not going into English. I like writing, but it's not what I'm going into. But I love the teacher so much. I've built such a connection with him, Mr. Smith, throughout these 2 years that I've had him, and so there I love it. Where also another thing like physics, with Ms. Habib, I love physics, is what I'm going to go into basically with engineering. She's also awesome. Where that's also a favorite. So I think that it has to, partially with the content, but also student-teacher relationship as well. Yeah.
What are all the courses?
I took AP Computer Science Principles my sophomore year. Junior year, I took AP Chemistry, AP Language, and AP US History. And then this year, I'm taking AP Economics, AP Calculus, AP Literature and Composition, and AP Physics. So. Thank you. I'm going to say AP Chemistry. I took honors chemistry as a sophomore. I did very well on it, but I feel like there's something about that class, and a lot of other classes too, like AP Physics and even AP Calculus, where the wording on the questions are, it's almost like a different language that you have to eventually kind of figure out yourself. And for a very long time, I just could not get a grasp on it. But again, after a while, you do figure it out, but that's probably what the hardest one was.
Yes.
How long does it take for you to get
I think the first couple that you take, if you take more than one, which you don't have to, but if you do, those take, I'd say, like for chemistry, it was one of my first APs, it was very, very difficult. I did not get adjusted to the curriculum until I'd say like November-ish, where I was like, I know how to study, I know what to do, I'm more confident now. Where like now, I'm pretty, you know, like I'd say I was adjusted within like the first month this year because I kind of know what's happening. But first time around, it took me probably like 3 months.
How many hours did you spend studying or
Oh, I'm so sorry. How many hours do I spend studying in general? Or like working and stuff like that? I want to go back again to like last year because I feel like that was definitely the hardest batch of classes that I've taken. And I'd say like minimum, probably like 3 hours a night, where if I had a test the next day, that could go up to like 6 or something crazy like that. This year's a little bit, again, chill, a little bit more chill because I'm a senior and everything. But honestly, with all those classes, probably 3 or 4 hours a night, which is again why I had to like cut back on certain other activities I was doing. But yeah. Yes?
How far in advance do you recommend studying for like the AP?
Like, so the question was, how far in advance do you study for the AP exams? Do you mean like the ones at the end of the year?
Yeah.
For those, I'd say a lot of our teachers do an awesome job at preparing you like during the class, where you might not find yourself having to study so much at the end. And like, I keep thinking of chemistry, where like, honestly, we had a whole month of studying before the test. So with that class, I don't really have to study that much before the test. But if you feel the need to, if you really want to, if you're really determined to get like a 5 on this test, I'd say start reviewing like a month before. I think that's a pretty good, I mean, you could always go above and beyond, but sometimes that just is not realistic with your schedule and isn't worth like killing yourself over. So I'd say like about a month.
As a classroom teacher, do you have anything to add to that as far as like what you see from the students?
Well, I mean, in AP Physics, we practice throughout the year. So, you know, Ryan's in my class right now. So any unit or chapter that we do, we're always giving them
AP multiple choice and AP free response questions. So they're really practicing throughout the year. They're learning how to think with the AP questions. I always tell students, there's one thing in knowing the material. I mean, you can know physics well, but there's another aspect of cracking the exam. So you could know your physics very well, but if you don't know how to approach the AP exam in any subject that you're taking, you could know your material, but you may not do well in the AP exam. But I think, I don't want to speak for Mrs. Hackworth, but I think most of us AP teachers, we have practiced throughout the year, and then the month before the AP exam, we heavily take real exams under real testing conditions and go over them and correct them. So it's a building process.
I'm going to just real quick piggyback off of what Ryan said and Mrs. Habib said. We share your students, your current classroom teachers, parents, your children's current classroom teachers, deeply know them as students and learners. So we cannot emphasize enough the importance of those individual conversations, because I'm going to be on, Ryan's going to Carnegie Mellon. Like, she is at a level intellectually that if I were a high school student and Ryan's giving me suggestions on APs, like, you can't compare. Like, so that's the challenge, is there is not a crystal ball that says, here is the formula of what you need to do to be able to manage X amount of AP courses. It is very individualized. It is very personalized. She has done a lot of self-reflection and had to make very mature decisions as a high school student to walk away from like big parts of her identity of who she was. Not every high school student is willing and able to say, I'm gonna walk away from athletics, or I'm gonna walk away from this leadership organization because I am that committed to my academic work. So we can't emphasize enough, when we say right student, right course, and the trusted adults in this building, we have to have some very difficult conversations at times that involve, we may not recommend student A take this course because of this data. What we want you to know is we are here to open up every opportunity for our students and your children. But what we see at times is we've got to look at the whole schedule. Students are looking at, what's my math class? What's my English class? What's my social studies class? Like linearly, in silos, instead of looking at all of those classes on top of one another, and their activities, and a job, and their social events and activities. So we really encourage, your children are having those individual conversations with their teachers. Really ask those questions about, do you feel like I'm prepared to take this level of course? Because what we don't want to see is a student being overwhelmed because they took too much, and then it becomes I don't know how do I get through this? So we have students that are going to all kinds of areas after high school that have taken maybe 1 or 2 AP courses, and they're still doing amazing things. But I just wanted to remind everybody, let's really try to look at the whole schedule as well, and having those individual conversations with your teachers and leaning on school counselors, principals, and students. Like, I know Ryan meets with underclassmen all the time to give feedback, suggestions, things that she wished she knew when she was in 9th or 10th grade. Thank you. It's 8:17, so thank you. I just pulled a Mrs. Martin. It's 8:17, sorry. Any more, we have time for one more question, and then it's gonna be the second breakout session. One more question.
So is it true that your college application only included the first 4 AP classes?
So the question was, is it true that my college applications only included the first 4 AP classes? It only included the grades I received from them. However, I did write down the classes I'm taking right now, and so they still saw that, and I'm sure that was part of their decision that they would, that I'm still taking those classes. I also did send in a mid-year transcript where they saw the grades that I got from the first half of the year in those classes.
Yeah, so students submit, when you're applying to schools, colleges and universities will see all of your grades from 9 through 12 completed. Because by the time you're heading into your senior year, you're applying, Mrs. Sheriff sending transcripts. So yes, your grades are not on your transcript, but we do have record on the transcript of your current 12th grade classes. And like Ryan said, we can submit mid-year grades. Some schools have like a self-reported that you put on there. So there are different ways that we communicate with schools. And then at the end of the year, Mrs. Sheriff sends a final transcript to all colleges and universities. Good question. All right.
Okay, thank you all for joining. If you could give Mrs. Lutzo, Mrs. Habib, Mrs. Hackworth, and Ryan a big round of applause.